Page 72, the Marine's Hymn. On page 72 at the top, they're introducing you to the primary chords in G major. We sort of already used two of them, the G and the D7 chord. Well, the G is the 1 chord, the D7 chord is the 5/7 chord. And now the C chord is the 4 chord. They're introducing them across the top and letting you know where they are. The G chord is the 1 chord. It's built on step 1 of the scale, the G major scale. It's here. The C chord is the 4 chord. It's built on the 4th step. It's here. We typically will play it in, we'll put the G on the bottom here, because if we're in this hand position, we don't have to really move the hand much to play it. It's kind of there. So we use this arrangement. We don't want to have to go from here to here. That's moving around too much. We don't move our hands on piano any more than we have to. Unless you're just showing off, and then you do. So the C chord is the 4 chord. It's built on the 4th step. Well, the D7 chord is the 5/7 chord. It's built on the 5th step. And it is a D chord, which is D, F sharp, A. Remember, there is an F sharp in G major. And we just add the 7th, the C. The 4 chords, they show them there, but we don't always use them all, because in the arrangement we take the D and put it on top, and then we just leave out the A, and that's it. That's what we're doing. That's where it comes from. That's what it is. It works exactly the same way as the primary chords in C major, which you need to know and remember forever now. Well, now G major's added to it, and both hands. I'm sure Alfred will get to the right hand in a minute, but why wait? Do it now. Primary chords. In the Marine's Hymn, you're using them in the left hand. You're starting out, and they give you the Roman numerals, which is the chord. The 1 chord, 5/7 chord, 1 chord. Second line next to the last measure is the 4 chord. Actually, the second line, the first full measure is 4 chord. Isn't that nice? Now, Marine's Hymn, let's talk about that. 4/4 time, key signatures, G major, 1 sharp. It has a pickup beat, 2 coming in on beat 4. Actually, it has 2 pickup beats. There's 2 measures, because there's one at the beginning of the first line. That's actually a section. And then there's another one for the second line, which is actually another section, because each section can have its own pickups. Isn't that cool? And so we have it there. Well, if you look at the last measure of each line, there's only 3 beats in each one. So altogether, it still comes out with 4 beats total for each measure. If you use a little imagination, it works great. Yeah. Right hand has the melody. The left hand has the chords. So you're going to bring out the melody, so the left hand's going to be soft. Dynamic, it just gives you a loud. It's up to you. You can vary that a little bit, but for the most part, this is a showy piece. This is a proud piece. This is a patriotic piece. And that's the way it is. 8th notes, 1 and 2 and 3 and. It comes in on 4, so it's 4 and 1. 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and. Second full measure, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1, like so. So that's the rhythm, basically. The second line is very similar to the rhythm as far as the rhythm goes. Now let's talk fingering. I like this fingering. I really do. This is another style of fingering, and you'll learn different styles, and eventually you'll have your own style. Some styles are better than others. Here, look at the first full measure with all those D's. You got 5 D's in a row, counting the D in the next measure. Each one is a different finger. 5, 4, 3, 2. I love it. That's just wonderful. I highly encourage you to learn that kind of fingering. I'm a big believer in, if I have repeated notes, I'll use different fingers if I can. You can't always do that. And sometimes it's just best not to. But most of the time I will use different fingers. And this kind of thing serves 2 purposes. One is, when you use 2 different fingers, and you get nervous, by challenging you by using different fingers, it makes you focus more on it. You're actually more apt to play it accurately when you get nervous and under stress. So it's actually better. And if it's fast, that's all the more important to use different fingers, because I can use different fingers faster than I can use, you know, I'd wear out real quick trying to use one finger, but different fingers you can do much more. So I encourage you to learn this fingering. Eventually you want to do it without looking. You'll have to look at first, but eventually you'll do it without looking. Then the other reason this, or the other thing this accomplishes is it lets us change hand positions. Because we're starting out here, and we're going to go up to here. And by doing this on the D, we're changing hand positions. Now we're here. Isn't that cool? That's just another way to... We did it on the previous piece by using different fingers. We changed hand positions. We only went up and down one key. Doesn't matter. We changed hand positions. Here, you're changing hand positions quite a bit. And that accomplishes that. Now, in the second full measure, you have to lift up and come back down, but you're between phrases, so you're just going to lift up and move. Here. Then at the end of the line, you're here. Going on to the next line, that's an octave. You just reach out and hit the octave. Eventually, you want to be able to feel an octave, so you can do that without looking. You'll have to look for now. But it's also between a phrase, so you're going to lift up. But you can lift up and do that, or you can lift up and move. It's your choice. So I can do here, here, or I can do here, here. Whichever. I recommend stretching out and feeling that, so you can do that without looking at the keyboard. So you're in this position, and you're going to stay in this position for the whole second line. Now, as far as the road map goes, there's a repeat sign at the end of the first line, so we're going to play that twice. Then at the second line, at the end of that, there's a DC al fine. That DC means go back to the beginning. Fine is at the end of the second line, so it simply means we're going to go up and do the first line again. So this piece is actually 4 lines long. This is a very common melody, so you probably have heard it and you know how fast it goes. If you're going to march to it, how fast would you march it, you know? Rhythm. A little bit more about rhythm. Look out on the next to the last measure of each line, the rhythm. It has a dotted rhythm, but the short note comes first. Normally the short note comes after. Like in the second full measure of the first line here, it's 1 and 2 and 3, and the short note, the 8th note, is after it. But in the next to the last measure, the 8th note's first. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and. So that dotted quarter note comes on an and. 3 and 4 and 1. So watch out on those. Those dotted rhythms can be either direction, obviously, because it is. As far as the articulation goes, articulation is legato, staccato, accents, all that, how you're playing it. The effects, sort of. So it starts out legato, you have a phrase, you're going to connect these as best you can. And then you're going to lift up between the phrases. And the second line, the whole line is connected in the right hand. Left hand is legato for the most part, as best you can with chords. You can't really, with chords, you're going to have a little silence between them. That's okay. And don't forget to play the rest. But in the last measure of each line, it's a staccato. Just a wrist staccato here. Just bounce off of the key. Like so. Because the right hand's holding the note down. So, or whatever it is, so staccato in the left hand there. A little bit about chord progressions. In the middle of the page they talk about chord progressions. You already know what a chord is, it's a group of notes. A progression is a series of notes. They show them here. In the first example they give a 1, 4, 5, 7. It's a very common, it's like what chord can follow another chord? Well, if it sounds good, it's okay. That's basically the rule. But in the second example, they give a 1, a 4, a 1, a 5, 7, a 1. That's another progression. They could leave out the middle chord, the 1 in the middle, just leave that out and you go a 1, 4, 5, 7, 1, similar to the first example. It's another progression. You'll notice these progressions, and if you're going to compose or improvise or whatever, It comes in handy knowing there's all kinds of chord progressions. It's like, as I said before, if it sounds okay, it's okay. If you like it, use it. That's basically the rule. There's a few little rules saying, well, this should follow this, or this should resolve to this, or whatever. You can get into that on your own. I don't get into it that deeply anymore. It's just, if I like it, it's close enough. So let's try this out. It has a pickup beat, so I'm going to give us 3 counts, and we're going to play it with all the repeats and the DC and all that. Be sure and bring out the melody. I'm just going to play the notes, but when you're working on it, be sure and play the right hand louder than the left. So you're starting out in G position. 1 and ready and go and. 1 and 2 and 3 and. Repeat. 2 and 3 and. To the top.